Lasciavo prossimo. Just wanted to share a little tip about something that I found really useful recently. Voi gotovi? I needed to render a couple of different versions of a scene, one in square format and one in standard 16 by 9. By default, Blender's output properties settings affect every camera in your scene. See here, this is the standard 19 by 20 in the Blender output properties. Okay, all well and good, you might say. Just do your render. Let's hit F12. Okay, and then go back into my scene and in the output properties, change the settings here and do another render. Let's say this one's going to be 1080 on the X and 1920 on the Y. This is portrait aspect ratio. But of course, now my framing is off. So I'm going to need to move this camera and reframe things. But if I decide that I like the old framing, what I should do, if I want to be able to come back to that, is duplicate that camera first before I start messing around with its position and rotation. Now I'm going to make sure I'm looking through the new camera with the Alt-C shortcut. That's in your viewport pie menu add-on. Enable that in the add-ons. Okay, so I'm going to choose my camera from the drop down here. And again, Alt-C and lock camera to view. And now I can navigate to frame the scene the way I want it in this aspect ratio. All right, before we render, F11, and I'm going to change to slot 2 just so we can keep both renders. And again, F12 to render. And now we can toggle between the two renders, between slot 1 and slot 2. Okay, so it's doable, of course, but it's a bit of a pain, really. If I make changes to my scene and I want to make new renders in both those aspect ratios, portrait and landscape, well, I'm going to have to fiddle around with the output properties again every time I do it. And here is where a very handy little add-on called Per Camera Resolution comes in. It's one of the standard Blender add-ons, so it should pop up if you search for PER, or it's available on the Blender Extensions website. Enable that, and now I've got it enabled. I'll select the landscape camera in the outliner. Down under its object properties, the little green camera icon, under the camera tab, I now have this custom resolution button. Enable that. And now I can set up the camera aspect ratio independent of the main output properties. So if I now switch back to viewing through this original landscape camera, Alt-C, ta-da! Even though I changed the main output properties to portrait, 9 by 16 that was, in this camera, which I just changed, the aspect ratio is landscape, 16 by 9. To prove it, let's switch back to the portrait camera, Alt-C. There you go. Dobre. For good measure, let's do another one. So I'm going to duplicate this camera, F2 to rename it, camera 1 by 1. And again, Alt-C, I'll set it as the scene camera. Again, go to its object properties, custom resolution, and I'm going to do 1080 by 1080 here. Very cool. Per Camera Resolution, a fantastic little add-on. I am definitely going to be using this one lots. Thanks for watching, and once again, do zustrici!
3D from Zero makes tutorials and tips about 3D software. If you're into 3D, or you'd like to be, check out my free course on 3dfromzero.com, and there are some paid courses there too. Thanks for watching.